to the Destination Saratoga All Access podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Zarzicki. I had the chance to sit down with Brit McAdams, writer and director of Paint. Brit came to Saratoga for the first annual Saratoga Film Showcase. We had a chance to talk about his movie Paint, why he chose Saratoga as his filming location, and we even did a fun little activity. I can't wait for you to hear it. So I'm Mackenzie Zarzicki. This is Destination Saratoga All Access. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Brit McAdams. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, it's great to be here.
This is great. So you're staying at Saratoga Arms?
Yes.
How is it?
Honestly, it's great. It's such a quaint, beautiful, nice place. They ask you what your room temperature should be when you're staying there, and then it's free snacks.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. You've been there. A lot of people haven't been there. A lot of people aren't allowed in.
Yeah.
But
only the A-listers.
Yeah, A-listers, and then A-listers, if they have friends, they get me in. So it's perfect.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah, so nice. It's awesome.
Perfect. Well,
Yep.
I am so happy that you like it because we want to make sure you feel good and special because you're our headlining guest for the Saratoga Film Showcase.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. I love Saratoga, because as we'll talk about, we film Paint here, and so I'm from New York, just north of New York City, but I went to Colgate, which is close here. My sister lives in Rutland. I just love Saratoga. I feel like Saratoga is this sort of, in some ways, known but unknown place where I just want to live. So if someone wants to have me move in, I'm game. Yeah.
I'm sure we could find a place for you to stay.
Thank you very much.
That's a perfect segue. Tell us about Saratoga. What are your favorite spots? Where do you go when you're here?
Well, I would say the entire area, how beautiful it is. But it's weird because we shot just at the tail end of COVID. It was a little dicey in terms of where we could go. We were here when they freed up everything, so it's you could have masks off and stuff. There was a big night at Desperate Annie's, right?
Yes.
So that was a big night there, and it was weird. It was people were sort of set loose in Saratoga, which was and the hard thing for us is we were filming across the street from Desperate Annie's in this little, it's funny, I don't know what the place has become, what it's called now, but we just turned it this little storefront into a barber shop. So we were surrounded by fully functioning bars that had not been fully functioning in months and months.
Yeah.
So all of Central New York was there.
Yeah.
And also the fact that we had Owen Wilson there, I think also really created some energy. We had one of our producers going around to all of the establishments around us and being here is some money, please, don't have the bass cranked up coming through the walls.
Yeah.
It was remarkable because it's also I don't know how Saratoga designs its bars, but they seem to fit them into every floor.
Yes.
It's there's music above you and below you and around you. So
Yep.
it was...
we like our music.
Yeah. And it was, trust me, it was I get it. It was it was coming out of the pandemic and people were ready to go. And
yeah.
So it was, I'm amazed the sound in the movie, in that scene works because it was not quiet.
I'm going to have to watch it again and see if I
no,
can
you
hear
can't,
any
you can't. You really
no.
can't. I was terrified. When we were shooting, I was why are we here? Why are we doing this here right now? Because it was when bass comes through a wall, you're our sound guys were brilliant. They isolated it and we were able to get it out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
So we did a poll on our Instagram and asked our followers if they had any questions to ask you. And that was actually the question. It was, how did you manage to film on Caroline Street when it's one of the busiest streets, especially in the evening, for Saratoga?
I don't know. I mean, we had the street shut down. It was it's weird because everything becomes so myopic and you're working in a place where you have all these concerns about, there's some symmetry in the film, in terms of how stuff is framed. So literally, it's funny, there's this one coat rack that's not totally vertical in there. So I'm really focused on how vertical the coat rack is, all these just little things. Then you step outside and you're this is Mardi Gras out here. It was because they had the street blocked off at the top end and it was just deep in people and then people at the bottom end, but also all the bars and stuff were open. Yeah, I mean, that street shut off, I guess, just to foot traffic, but still it was just busy out there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few places that were in the film.
Yep.
Desperate Annie's.
Yep.
O'Brien Inn.
Yes. So pretty.
Such a pretty
So
place,
pretty.
right?
Owner's so nice there. Everyone else, all the owners are so nice. Like there's a barn. Carl Nargle's barn in the movie is owned by Ambrosia's parents' house, and Carl Nargle's barn are the same property.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's it's just how you shoot stuff. If you just don't show something out of frame, there can be anything out of frame.
Yeah.
So those properties are connected. Mark owns them. I don't remember Mark's last name, but we would ship in a van and he would sign for it, or he'd be like, the house is open if you guys need anything or whatever. Like, it's just, everyone's just so nice. So like that was a really nice thing coming from, I live in LA. And so LA's definitely like been taken advantage of, I would say, enough times. Like people have been, or they've had film crews not treat them well over the years or whatever else. But Saratoga was just so welcoming, and we weren't jerks, you know?
Yeah.
So because, people can be terrible to people and take advantage of people, but it was a really nice, like, give and take of, like, people being great to us and hopefully us not being terrible to people.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like to think we are very hospitable here in Saratoga. So
You
that's
guys are awesome.
wonderful to hear. Now, you mentioned the van.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's the one.
That was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. I love Fantastic. So I own Fantastic now.
You do?
I do. Fantastic's in a barn in Rutland, Vermont. And I don't know what to
awesome.
do. I don't know. Like, it's like I own Fantastic. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. We live in Los Angeles, but my sister lives in Rutland. So we've gone and seen the van, and you sort of take pictures with it. And then you're like, okay, now what? Like, because it's like, we need a minivan. We don't need a van.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, what do I do with a van? So, yeah, this is like, if you could, any suggestions? Like, I've had like a weed store in Vermont want to buy it, which might be the perfect
Fit, yeah.
place to do it. But I don't know what to do. Like, it's literally like, I've got the Painter, Pantr license plate from Vermont on it. It's registered with that plate. So it's like,
So it's drivable. You can
it's
take her on the road.
drivable. Yes. It's definitely has 4 working cylinders out of 6. So it's definitely got a little bit of, noise to it, but it's great. It's certainly a fun thing to drive around in, but I don't know what to do with it.
Does it have the walkie-talkie that he uses?
The CB is, it's there. It's not practical. So it's not actually working. So, but yeah, it's there. I mean, the stuff is in it. There's a custom made fold down bed in the back,
Yes.
which was made for it. So it's so funny. The little touches, like Todd Jeffrey, who was a guy who was a production designer, did this incredible thing, which was so funny when someone who's so good at something, you're in their world, and he was like, I found the perfect fabric for the sofa. And he's like, look at it. And he like flips it over, and it was the non-showing side of a fabric. So it's like, how it's like, if you look at one side, it's all the colors are vibrant and stuff on anything stitched. And then the other side is like colors are muted and not so defined and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like the inside of a pattern
Yeah.
is what's on like the sofa and stuff. So it's so funny how someone's eye sees a world differently, where it's like, I'm not, it's also like the barbershop. In the barbershop, there's tin on the bottom part of the barbershop, and Todd and Patrick Cady, who's the incredible DP on it, and I were walking past a dumpster in Saratoga, and Todd was like, holy cow. And so there was this tin that had been on a ceiling that we took out of the dumpster, and then he lines the bottom of the barbershop wall with that tin. So it's
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting how someone, like for him, it's funny, he only dresses in black because he doesn't have the mental like space to think about colors on himself. Like, it's such a specific thing, but he so sees the world of production in various colors and hues and stuff, where he's like, I don't have time to choose the colors of the clothes I wear, so I just wear all black, and that way I can focus on whatever I'm working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it sounds a little crazy, but it's like,
No,
but
it
it's like,
makes
it's
sense.
so funny because he sees the world in a very different way. If you're walking along, he's like, oh, that thing, like, let's use that for this, or
That's amazing.
yeah, like he's like,
That's a
I
talent
found
right
the
there.
I found the perfect barber chair like 2 hours away, or there's like a TV joke in it. Like, there's a TV this TV monitor comes up really, really slowly out of
Yes.
this. And it's like one of my favorite things ever. And so we had talked about that for months. And so basically the joke is that it's a local TV channel, and they're going to show a clip, and they're very proud of this clip showing. And so the monitor behind them comes out of a cabinet super, super slowly and just incredibly painful, like waiting on that. That was found in Albany, that console. And I didn't see it until like 5 minutes before we were shooting. And he brings it out, Todd brings it out. And he's like, I think I found it. And I push the remote control. The console opens, and then it takes like, I think 28 seconds for the TV to fully come up.
Yeah.
And I was like crying. I was so happy. I was so happy to see something that darefully designed.
That's hilarious.
It was awesome.
There was a lot of good comedic moments in this film. And you have a background in comedy, right?
Yes.
So what was your inspiration for this movie? How did it come together?
My first job out of college was I had a job at VH1, which at the time was a music channel.
Yes,
and
I'm aware of VH1.
Yeah, Video Hits 1. And so I was working at Video Hits 1. I would meet a lot of my favorite artists, like, singer-songwriters and stuff. And a lot of them were terrible people. And the more I liked them, the worse they were. So it's like, not
That's
across
why
the
they
board.
say never meet your heroes,
It's
right?
a tough break. It's so tough when you're like, oh, you're a jerk. And it's like, you sound great and you really communicate to a lot of people, but you're terrible to people. I would say the hard rockers, all nice for the most part. I'm not going to say who's bad of that group, but Bon Jovi's band was really nice. All those guys were super nice. Or it's like if guys were kind of having fun or didn't think they were changing the world, they were pretty great. Like David Bowie, super nice guy. Really, really great.
Yeah.
That's when you're like, oh, thank you. He was one of my favorites. But yeah, there's people who are terrible. One of the things that I learned there was if you have real success as a 18 to 22-year-old or whatever it is, how do you move beyond that?
Yep.
When would you change?
Mm-hmm.
When would you realize that you don't have things figured out? That was a big part of the initial conceptualizing of the world and the character of the biggest fish in the smallest of ponds. And if the world has changed and you haven't, if you can still fit into your cool jeans from 30 years ago, are you going to change them? Why would you change anything? If your van's awesome, why would you change that? And so why would your thinking about anything in the world change? And, a big part of it is sort of the role of women in the world, and why would you look at women differently if you didn't have to change anywhere else? So, if you're treated like a god, that's a tricky place to be. And it doesn't matter what you're the god of. When would you change?
Yeah.
If you don't have to change, why would you?
Exactly. And you can see that with his character. He's very used to being doted on and when he comes out, they hand him his coat and his tea and all the things. And it's like when you are treated that way for years, like you said, why would you do anything differently? And then when something does change, like Ambrosia coming in, it's a huge shock to the system. Yeah,
and you're not even poorly intentioned. I think that's a big part of as the world changes, you can either change or not, or evolve with it, or think you're somehow responsible for the bad that's come before you or whatever else. It's no, you just have to appreciate that a lot of the foundations of the person you are built on things that aren't equitable or whatever else. So it's you just have to be open to that stuff of not everything was perfect before me, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad person even. It's just I just need to evolve.
Yes.
And so we all do, right? This is one of the crazy ones for me is I'm old enough that I was alive when the University of Texas won the college football national championship with the all-white football team. I was one. Now, so how does that influence the world? That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because you feel whatever's happening in the world right now, whatever's moving forward or moving backwards, you're I was alive for that. My parents were alive for that. My grandparents, everyone kind of thought that was okay. When did Texas become fair for, kids of color, for people? If you can't have, if your football team that's representing the state is all white, that's crazy. And when does that state become fair for people? So it's and that doesn't mean that, it just means you've got to look at things and just realize that hopefully things are changing in the right direction, and you just want to be on board with that change. And it's also hard because it's and everyone makes mistakes and everyone's just trying to get better, hopefully in every way. And it doesn't mean your grandparents were terrible people or whatever. It just means if you get new information, you've got to evolve with the new information. That's Karl Nargle in a nutshell, I guess. I don't know. Or the world in a nutshell.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And you talk about evolving, and you talk about, his interaction with women. And some of the women had very interesting roles. And I think that was for a purpose. But I think part of his growing was realizing that women are equals too.
For sure. And it took 12 years for the script to get made. The first incarnation of the script, which was very well received, we were immediately financed we were a go movie 2 weeks after I wrote it, and it was incredible. And so it was remarkable. It was remarkable. And then it fell through for a decade or so, which is just honestly the nature of it's amazing the amount of things that can go wrong as you make a film. Yeah, you take the biz out of it. So it's a weird, so many things have to come together. But in the initial incarnation of the script, the Ambrosia character was Stefan. It was not a woman coming in.
Okay.
So in terms of the world changing, I changed hopefully along with it, where I was like, it was not a woman coming in and changing the world. It was a younger man, and it was a story of age, more age than men and women, about misogyny. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because it was just sort of my evolution of how I see the world. That evolved over the 12 years of time. And thankfully, in some ways, it's funny, Mike White, he was the original producer of the film. He said the movie will get made when it should get made. And if the movie had gotten made, even just a few years before it got made, it would have been, the antagonist would have been another guy coming in, and sort of women watching is what it was going to be. And it was just my own limitations, and also just the way comedy has evolved and the world's evolved. So I rewrote it for a long time, and I kept rewriting it where I was worried about that, and I kept making the women nicer. And I just kept making them nicer and nicer and nicer. And then ultimately it was, the story got a lot better when the women were flawed in it, and ultimately had made their own mistakes along the way. Yeah. And so I don't know. It's like I think it's better because I also evolved over those 12 years. Yeah. Which means anyone can do it. Anyone out there, you can evolve too.
Yes. Yes.
That's the moment. That's the moment. That's the moment you're gonna cut. That's where it's like, let's cut that. That was really weird.
No, no. And if it did get made 12 years ago, maybe it wouldn't have starred Owen Wilson. How did that all work out?
Do you want to know the real story?
Yes.
Okay, here's the real story. This is really fun.
This is the all access.
Here we go. Here we go. Everyone ready? So this is really great. So I got hired to write the upfront for ABC. This is going to be long. Here we go. I got hired to write the upfront for ABC. And so the upfront is when ABC would sell its shows to advertisers. That's what an upfront is. So it's like you present all your shows to advertisers, and the advertisers are like, we'll give you all this money for all this stuff. I got hired. I got flown out from New York to LA to write it, and so to write their upfront. And my flight was delayed by 8 hours in New York for a snowstorm. I was at the airport for a long time. I didn't go to a hotel room. I went directly to the president of ABC's office, and I'd written this thing. They really wanted to push it, this whole thing. They really wanted to be edgy and stuff. And I sat in front of his office, and I had my suitcase tucked away where he didn't see it. But so the head of marketing, who's a friend, walked in to the president's office, and then he walked back out and was like, "So you're fired." And so, because they didn't want to be as edgy as I had gone. And I was like, okay. And I was mad. They had been nice enough to fly me in first class, but I took an earlier flight home, and I'm sitting in first class, and the woman sitting next to me is reading all these scripts. I'm like, she has to be, if she's in first class, she's probably a famous actor, but I don't recognize her. And then I looked, and it was a girl I went to high school with. And she's Owen's agent. Wow. And so at the time, I'd done some short films that got nominated for an Emmy and won a Webby and were kind of trending. And so we just talked the entire flight. We switched seats because our necks hurt because we were talking the whole time. And so that was, and so, her name is Sheenie Rosenzweig, she's an agent. And she was just kind of the one who kept that part of the world going. And so she brought it to Owen, and Owen was a fan of it, and so that's sort of how it got to Owen. And
so he was in from the beginning.
He was like the last 5 years or so. He came and went. He was attached for a couple of years and then dropped out for a year or so, and then came back, thankfully. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for people. It's like if you are a big star, you're getting offered things that are a lot more interesting than stuff from me. Like that's not even like, that's just the truth of it. It's like, it's just that, it's like, who knows what you're getting offered? Like we had some really, some really fun people attached over the years, to different parts and stuff. And, people would come and go for all sorts of reasons, and you can't deny it's like, that other project sounds amazing. I would do that too. That's just the nature of all of it. And then I do think, per Mike White's point, the best incarnation of it happened, and beyond lucky to have, because we have such talented people in so many different roles, like and some people like Lucy Freyer, who plays Jenna in the movie, who's the young girl in it. That's her first part, but she's the lead in a show on FX that's coming out in like April or May. So she's
the vegan girl.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was probably my favorite.
She's amazing,
scene.
right? She's so good.
She was so good.
Isn't she amazing? And it's like, so she auditioned, and she was like, she'd come out of Juilliard, and Juilliard's only 18 kids a class, which isn't that insane?
Wow.
For their film school, like 18.
I did not know that.
So yeah, I didn't know that either. But that's like one of those things where like they're 18, and so she
you have
came
the best
out
of the best.
Best of the best, and she's Australian. So, she has a ridiculous accent, except for when she's on camera.
I was going to say she hid that very well.
All right. So good, right? It's crazy. Like, that's a real talent. She's going to be huge. Like, I think she'll, hopefully by summer she'll be huge.
That's
like
awesome.
This next summer. Like, so it's like, and then Stephen Root is like just an absolute gift, and someone who just wants to make, so he's Tony, the general manager of the station.
Yep.
He's someone who just wants to make interesting stuff and wants to work with people who aren't terrible. So we were beyond lucky to get him. Wendy McClendon-Covey is a huge star and from Reno 911, and then just moving on for 30 years after that. And like, she's someone who, and also she and Michaela are both in Groundlings, which is a comedy troupe in Los Angeles. And so my wife, who's one half of I Mom So Hard, which is these two moms who do comedy. So my wife is Jen, who's the blonde-haired person in it. So see, people are bigger.
Christina's clapping.
Yeah, people are much bigger fans of my wife than me. This is the terrible part. This is my life. This is my life. Yeah. So it's like, look at, you're blushing now. You're blushing. You're blushing. I'm being interviewed. This is me. This is me right now. This is me. Let's look at you. Unbelievable.
Sorry, we go hard here for women. But today is about you, Britt. So let's.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it? Just like blushing over there. This is ridiculous. Unbelievable.
Why did you choose Saratoga for your film location?
So the film's set in Vermont, and so there are a lot of similarities in terms of Saratoga and Vermont. But Saratoga also has the added benefit of being in New York, where you have tax incentives, which is huge.
Yep.
You also have this tremendous infrastructure in Saratoga, which I think makes Saratoga really unique, where you have a few months of remarkable wealth and people coming into Saratoga. Like, so you've got, all this horse track money coming in. Mm-hmm. And so that creates incredible restaurants and all of these, hotels that maybe aren't getting used quite so much the rest of the year. Yeah. So it's like, it's a pretty good place to bring in something else. So we shot in April and May and really took advantage of all that. And certainly it's like talking to people about it, because I do think it's this gem, like talking to foodies, and they're like, Saratoga has the second best food in New York after New York City.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I think it's true, because
I think the compliment.
I think it's really high level. The restaurants here are great. So it's interesting how it's got all these things going for it, where you have, and it's ready for overflow. I mean, it's ready to deal with people for like massive amounts of people for a couple months a year, right? Yeah. So that means the rest of the year you have all of that stuff that's all set up, but then you have all of but you can take advantage of that. So, and then it's also like between like the Lincoln Baths are that beautiful building.
Yep.
Right. Incredible building. So that plays the role of the Burlington Museum in the film. So like that, I mean, where do you find a building like that? So,
yeah.
But you've got beautiful restaurants. It really can take the place of a lot of different places.
Yeah.
So yeah, and the producer of the film is Peter Brandt, who is one of the producers. So he actually has a house here. And so,
wow.
yeah, and so he's a big horse racing guy. He actually has Sierra Leone, which is his horse. Sierra Leone?
Sierra Leone, I think it's called.
Yeah, Leone, there it is. So, so.
Was she in the Derby or the Belmont?
Horse, yeah, is
one of the big
a 3-year-old of the year. So
okay.
he won't be here this weekend because he's in Florida celebrating that. So
hopefully he comes up for the Belmont.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, he's got a lot of horses here and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he's a lot of ways the reason. That was the first suggestion of like, let's do it here. I wouldn't have thought of Saratoga at all. It's weird in some ways because I'm from near here. My sister lives in Burlington, as I said. I went to Colgate, but I never spent time in Saratoga. Like I really didn't know Saratoga.
Yeah.
Like I drove past Saratoga more than coming to Saratoga, but I love it here.
Yes.
I love it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to your characters, I heard that this movie is loosely based on Bob Ross's life. No. Carl Nargle is an entirely fictional character.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he's a PBS painter with very similar hair. That's very confusing for people. So that's just the truth of it. So it's like,
okay.
Yeah, so like I don't know if we should have kept that hair. I wrote the film so long ago that Bob Ross was not a thing. Bob Ross was not part of the zeitgeist. Like he had disappeared.
Okay.
So when I first started pitching it, I was like, it's based on this painter who used to be big, and people would be like, oh, I think I kind of know him. And then all of a sudden, Bob Ross became a thing. What do you do with that? And so we kept it. It serves a purpose because it is a look, but it's ultimately I would say confusing in some ways. I just never found a better look. Like I never found anything that popped quite so much. So in some ways you are taking advantage of the Bob Ross likeness, and in some ways maybe you're hindered by it because it makes it harder for it to become its own story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, he's really in a lot of ways his look is based on Gordon Lightfoot a lot. So
okay.
And there's a Gordon Lightfoot song in the film, which I can't believe we have, which is "If You Could Read My Mind," which is probably the best song ever written. Like it's so good, man. But I can't believe we have that. And Gordon Lightfoot passed away right as the film was getting released, and I think his last post was about that Carl Nargle was actually based on him. Like it was pretty amazing to see that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm a huge fan of that guy. So like to have that was pretty remarkable. So and to have
awesome.
it's just great. So it's talking with Owen about the character, it was like that was who we really zeroed in on in terms of like sort of his feel. Bob Ross had been a master sergeant in the Marines and spent his career yelling, and then decided he wanted to stop yelling. He had that hair for one day, and then became popular with that hair and had to keep it. Didn't like that hair. Bob Ross is an interesting guy, and there's a lot of like stuff around him that's not so much fun. I really tried to, believe it or not, stay away from anything Bob Ross related, so that this character could become his own character. Yeah, that kind of does in some ways doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I really purposely tried to stay away from knowing anything about Bob Ross after him being, the inspiration for the film, which I know is weird, but it's like he really was the inspiration when he was forgotten.
Yeah.
And then Bob Ross became famous, and then it's sort of what do you do now?
Are you up for something spontaneous?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Is it about my wife?
It's not. This is about you.
Thank you.
I got a surprise for you.
All right. Oh boy. Do I have to chug something? All right.
Paint.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness. It's funny because it's like Owen Wilson. He took painting lessons.
You have your own palette, sir.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't this fantastic? We're going to paint happy trees.
Jeez Louise, this is going to work out poorly. All right. Can I tell you something about the movie Paint?
Yes, I'm going to give you a paper towel because I'm a mom and that's what we do.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
How old are your kids?
4, and my son will be 2 in March.
Oh my goodness.
So they
That's
are.
a lot, huh?
It is.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a lot in a good way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
My daughter, when you ask her what she wants to be when she grows up, it's an artiste
Smart.
and a mom. But that's secondary.
What are your kids' names?
Madeline and Barrett.
And what do you call? Do you call her Maddie?
I used to, but now she is very adamant at
About
4 years
Madeline.
old that her name is Madeline, not Maddie.
That's pretty cool. I like that. That's a fun name.
But her middle name is James. So my mom used to say,
Maddie
she's going to be a country western famous singer, and her name is going to be Maddie James.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah.
see.
All
But for
right.
now, she wants to be an artist.
Okay.
All right.
Does she paint happy trees?
She does. She paints all the things.
I started to say this, but I know very little about painting. That's one of the
Same.
real, I really like, it's so great. It's like, I know a little bit. I know that Clea is pronounced Clay, the artist, and that's about it. There's very little painting in paint, which is, Look at, you're doing your sky. Interesting.
I'm doing a sky.
All right.
That's all I know about painting.
So
do a
fun.
sky, do a line for the
Well, you don't give away the secrets. Jeez
ground.
Louise, you're gonna-
I don't know.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
So funny. Okay, I'm gonna go.
I should just do black, right? That's
Oh,
what he
that's
does
not-
at the
there's
end.
no paint. Yeah,
We're just easing you into the day,
you're easing me into the day.
Easily. All right. I already feel like I'm making a mess here.
You're doing great.
Oh, thank you.
Is that a lake?
I don't know. It's supposed to be green, but now I've got too much blue on here. So
So good. There it is. It's terrible. It's terrible. There's no right angles. There are no right angles, and I gotta. Okay, there we go.
this is
you
epic.
know what? I gotta loosen up my hand.
I mean, you're doing better than me. I'm about to try a tree.
You're doing great.
Do a tree trunk.
How long is this gonna be? Do we have a few hours?
No. Yes. So, what is in your future? Do you have movies in the making that you're writing or directing?
I have 2 scripts right now. I wrote a script with Owen that we have out, and then I just finished a script a couple weeks ago that I can't say, but we're negotiating on something, so that's really fun. So those are
awesome.
the 2. So those are the 2 big things right now.
Okay, let's show our paintings.
All right. Oh, you did great.
Oh, thanks.
Look at that's amazing. But mine is better.
Yours is better.
Look at that.
Look at us.
You just have to sign them.
Oh,
This
God.
is a painting. This is very little.
Was that your muse? I'm gonna have to bring it home.
Exactly. Now it's done. Now it's
Oh my gosh.
yeah. I have to sign it.
So
Sign
funny.
it.
I did not do
Sign
great.
it so we can
You
smell
did
it.
a
yeah,
great
yeah,
job.
well, yeah.
You did a
A
great
lot
job.
of money there.
You just flew in from Los Angeles.
Yep.
Obviously, we're all painfully aware of what is happening over there. Was your family affected? Your home, your friends, colleagues?
Yeah, it's sort of been a pretty remarkable week or so, just the world really changing. So we live in Encino, so we're about a mile away from where the fires ended up going. And we got really, really lucky. So when the fires first came in that first night, the winds were, gusting at 80 to 100 or so. So that was just sort of a freight train of noise, and that's a little scary because you just don't know. You don't know where they are or also where they're cropping up. So, speaking with our friends particularly our friends in the Palisades, that was, how are you? We're evacuated. And then, people just losing everything. Just lost their house, like so fast.
Yeah.
Like so fast. So we ultimately got really lucky with the way the winds went, and that luck cost other people everything they have, So it's like we're certainly very fortunate. So funny I'm literally getting choked up because it's like, they're just people who just lost. But so we got really, really lucky, and it's a weird world of where you can look like you're looking at them, and so it's just a tricky place to be where you're like, you hope it, you're hoping for yourself, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're is interesting because we heard, it's one of those things where it's this Watch Duty app is the thing, and so Watch Duty sort of came on where you can track. It shows the fires, helicopters, planes, and everything else, so you could see where it was, and so. a hole in dirt. The dirt part is behind our house. And so, we heard from firefighters, like, everything's like text chains of like, this is what firefighters are doing. And so they set up they did a controlled burn along there, and they had fire trucks and all along this hop of this mountain chain sort of behind our house. And so you would go every couple hours and just watch it. And so there'd be a little patch of fire on, the side of a hill, and then another patch like 100 feet away. And then those would like connect, and there'd just be this inferno. And, if there were like palm trees above or telephone poles or whatever, those would just go so fast. Oh. And then so black smoke gets replaced by white smoke as the firefighters on the ground are putting that out. So you see white smoke low, and then that white smoke replaces the black, and then it just starts all over again. So we watched it break through and go east, which was towards Brentwood and the 405 and that stuff in there. So that was, watching it break through, you're like, you hope that doesn't happen, near us. So, and, while you're worried about your friends over there. And so so that broke through, but they really did control that well. And then on this last Saturday at noon, it sort of broke through to the west by us, which is, for us, that's that would be not many houses between us and it. Like it's like on a path of kind of 5 houses or whatever, but a lot of land there still. Like it's still like a mile. Like so, it would have to go a long way, and they were so prepared. Like that's the thing with these guys. Like and so what happened with at noon, they just brought in helicopter and plane after plane, like just hitting it, and put it out. So and that was it's like this idea that these guys and girls, these firefighters didn't do, I don't know. Like, I don't know, who knows, like, in terms of, like, they'll go through and see what mistakes were made or whatever else. But, like, when they had at any time or anything else, they did such an incredible job of putting it out. Like, I was literally just watching it. And I can't impress upon, until you see it, like, until you see how quickly that fire, it's 80 years of there hasn't been a fire where we are in 80 years. And so that's 80 years of brush and overgrowth and stuff. And the idea that you're going to clean that stuff out, it's like California is the entire East Coast. It's basically like if you shut off the water to the East Coast for 30 years and then tried to control, and everything had 3,000-foot mountains, try and stop that fire. We shouldn't be living there is the thing. It's like anytime you look at old photos of LA or whatever else, it's like, there are no trees or anything. It's like, we created this environment there that probably shouldn't exist, and it probably, in a lot of ways needs to burn every once in a while. But the firefighters, it was just really, really impressive watching them have a plan and contain it. And then for what happened, in the first few days, I don't know how you stop it. I mean, literally the sound of the wind outside of our house, I mean, it was never anything like it. It was a freight train, like the noise. So I don't know how you stop that. Like, it's like this, like our, fence blew over in our backyard or whatever. It's like, it's like if there's fire there, you're not stopping that. Like, how could you? Like, and especially for the amount of area you need to defend, and for whatever mistakes may have been made or whatever else. I don't know how you. And it's like 8 months ago, we got 10 inches of rain in one day, and so much rain in like 2 weeks, and then you don't get any rain for 8 months. Like, so everything grows. Everything grows so much in a short amount of time. And then you shut off the rain for 8 months. Like, how do you stop that? Like, how do you, throw in 100-mile-an-hour winds? Like, so, I don't know. I don't know how you stop that. So, but they have. I mean, they've, and they're very prepared, seemingly for whatever's next. And, something, it's not like it's rained since. So, something's coming. And we'll see.
Oh, man. Well, my heart is with you and your friends and family out there.
Thank you.
That was a scary time for you all and for us to be watching it. You just feel so helpless over here.
Yeah. Same with us. Like, totally helpless. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So.
Yeah. Well, thank God you're safe. Keep all those folks in mind. I mean, there's thousands of families. If our listeners wanted to donate or support the folks in LA in any way, what do you recommend? Red Cross always seems to do a good job, but it's like, I don't know what's been set up necessarily. I would just say support the people there. Like, as much as anything, like, I think there's a lot of misinformation about what's happened there. And it's just like,
I'm sure mistakes were made because mistakes are always made, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just part of life. Mistakes are made, but also like there are a lot of people who worked really hard to stop those fires. So I think supporting those people is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. You
This
guys are
has
awesome.
been so much fun.
Yes.
And I'm glad we had the opportunity to paint. Great idea, Christine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited that you will be speaking at the Saratoga Film Showcase tomorrow. A little Q&A after your movie.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for saying thank you, Saratoga.
Yeah.
Love this place.
Thank you. Well, enjoy your time, and I'm so glad we got to catch up.
All right. Me too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Destination Saratoga All Access podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more inside tips, curated itineraries, and behind-the-scenes stories of what makes Saratoga County so great. This podcast is brought to you by Discover Saratoga, the official tourism promotion agency for Saratoga County, Bright-Sided Media, video provided by Iron Glass Productions, and special thank you to Lyft Marketing.